The most ramble of rambles. That's the challenge, I guess. I don't know. I've been thinking about making a YouTube video, and every time I do it, I'm like, oh my god, it's so much work. I get so stressed because I want to do well and everything. Oftentimes I don't, and it's okay, but like, it's not at the same time, and well, I just have to press the record button, I think. That's just the solution. Just fucking go forwards, just record, just do it, and press upload, and hope it works out. And not complain. Plus 2% spirit chance. Let's go. A bunch of stuff came up recently. Not like in my life, I mean in like culture and everything that I kind of wanted to touch on. And I think I want to start with Sabrina Carpenter. I have a friend who is the like biggest fan of Sabrina Carpenter possible. Like, I'm not kidding. If there was a ranking of Sabrina Carpenter fans, this girl's like top of the list. There's no one who's more of a fan of Sabrina Carpenter than this girl. Anyways, she enlightened me to a lot of discourse going on recently about her new album cover that she released, because she's doing a new album cycle and how people are really mad about it. Oh, hell yeah, refined greedy spirit, W. Anthony Fantino just recently made a video on this that he uploaded, and his video is good. I'm not going to diss it because it's Anthony Fantino, and Anthony Fantino is really good at music discourse, but I want to come at this kind of a different perspective, because Anthony Fantino's was a lot more of a kind of dance, so to speak, with the replies, the fucking, the world telling you what's going on. It's more of a, hey, here's the reply, there's the reaction to the album cover, and here's why the reaction is like incorrect, right? And it doesn't go in a lot more into like the thought and theory and everything. And I mean, I'm not that educated in like feminist theory and things like that either, but I certainly want to come at this album cover from that perspective more, because Anthony Fantino is a music discourse guy and not, you know, random trans girl rambled about communism or something. Royal residue. I always wonder what this is for. Like, is it because like some king died in the pond and like we're fishing up his remains? Like, that's gruesome. Anyways. Oh no, I meant discard. Discern this. A lot of feminism recently has been construed as like empowering women to do things that they used to not be able to do. And like the obvious example is like, oh wow, like women can go into the workforce now. But I think this is put under a lens, a capitalist lens of now we can profit from women more, because women back then were baby machines, which life, recreation, etc., etc. More life means more people to exploit, which means more money into the pockets of the rich. But now, not only can we exploit the woman on that angle, we can also exploit the woman on the angle of they have to work in order to sustain their family and the people that they love in their own bodies, and that way we can exploit them for their labor, just as we exploited men for their labor before feminism or whatever. And that is the angle that is like it's good that women can work. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's also bad that we are forcing people to work at all. I guess. I think there's like a country. I think it's Sweden. I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's like a country that they didn't really allow women to like work that much. There wasn't much of a cultural push in that direction, but rather a cultural push in monetizing childcare, of like giving birth to a kid, raising a kid, taking care of the house, all that stuff. You know, like they monetize trad wives in a sense. Not exactly, because like trad wives is still like different, but like they monetize like taking care of the house from a wife, right? They gave benefits to people who chose to do that work, and from the government, that is, not from an actual employer, from the government. And that has kept most of the female population like not in the workforce, if I remember correctly, if I remember the data correctly, but like their lives are happier, etc., etc. It's like overall a positive, and I think that is something that comes back to cis, because the album cover obviously is, you know, the connotation is explicit, and that's okay. Why are people yelling about that? It's like the same thing that happened when Oppenheimer had like an explicit scene. It's like, yeah, people used to do that in movies, and arguably people should continue to do it because it's actually a pretty like valuable thing. Of like, it's a part of human life, and we should use it artistically. We should use it tastefully to portray the human struggle through our art, through our, you know, paintings, movies, music, etc. And on top of that, we should like empower people. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use. I think it's like empower people to do that stuff if they're comfortable with it. And I think about this a lot because like I used to talk with a friend a lot about my beliefs as they were changing from a kind of right-leaning perspective, unbeknownst to me. So like at the time I didn't really know what I was doing at all, and I had right-leaning beliefs because I was sheltered, and I come from a kind of I would say right-leaning, at least socially right-leaning, conservative-leaning household. And as I was starting to change my beliefs, not only to be more left-leaning socially, but also economically, and all of that, I was like talking with a friend through it because like I think that's a good way to, you know, make sure that your beliefs are in some sense being challenged while you work through them, and you know, like challenged from both directions, right? And there was like the usual discourse of like kink out pride or whatever, and like he was like, I don't want to see making like naked people on my street because, you know, they're naked people, and I mean, like, he is really like sex averse, so he is, I guess, biased. I don't know if that's the right word, but he is like negatively opposed to it in that sense. But like, he doesn't like, the argument was like not seeing naked people during a pride parade, and I'm like, I just don't care. I just don't care. Like, to force women to cover up their chests when they go outside entails that that part of their body is explicitly sexual, and that part of their body is incorrect to be shown off while it's okay for men, and that's something that we should change. That's something that we should push our society to, you know, modify, to make equal in that sense. In other words, sexualize men more. I'm a lesbian, so I got to say that. Or maybe I don't. I don't know what the permission structure would be, but it doesn't affect me either way. Well, I guess it affects me because I said it, but like, um, and as a kind of disjointed, like, second thing that I wanted to talk about is technoblade, because recently, well, decently recently, I guess. Hey, that rhymes. Decently recently. Um, his dad, well, like, his channel hit 20 million subscribers, and his dad decided to do what he called a substravaganza, which I don't really understand what he was trying to do with it other than promote the One of Us Foundation, which, hey, money to charity is good. But I found the entire thing really distasteful, and I understand that Techno's dad is probably not as tuned in into online Minecraft community discourse as I am, or as some of you might be, but I mean, I guess I have the time. You know what? I'm gonna go through line by line critique of, well, not line by line, but like a kind of critique of the substravaganza from what I remember of it in as detailed of a fashion that I can bear, I guess. Probably should do those elusive fish things. First of all, I disagree with the inclusion of Dream in George Not Found. And to some extent Sapnap, though I guess less minorly. George Not Found, I don't need to like talk about it, right? Like, we know he's a fucking creep. Like, we know the drama, we know why he... Okay, cool. I understand that he wanted to include George because of the drama that happened during the first charity event that the One of Us Foundation did, where like he was interrupting with the soundboard, and Techno Dad wanted to interrupt him with the bell, which I still find really dumb, because the point of including testimonies, I guess, from other people is testimonies are... Oh, you guys understand what I mean. The point of this is like to pay respect to your dead son, to pay respect to Technoblade, right? And to interrupt their testimonies, to interrupt that. I understand that you're digging back at George, but I find that disrespectful to Alex, disrespectful to Technoblade, and that's... Hi. I love this game. Okay. Yeah, I find it, anyways, back to... I find it disrespectful to Technoblade, I find it... Hello? Okay. I don't understand, but sure. I think it's disrespectful to Technoblade. I think it's a nice... Well, it's not even a good shot back at George. It's just like... It's depressing. if anything. The inclusion of him was bad because of what he's done. Um, what is that right there? Okay, nothing interesting. The conclusion of him was poor. Or I guess the choice to include him was poor. The dig back at him was poor. Do I have any? I don't, do I? Whatever. And I just think, like, it really didn't need to be there at all. Dream, I understand more because, like, Dream Techno was a thing, but, like, an issue that I had with it is obviously Dream, like, defended George. And I think Sapnap did too, which is why I have an issue with Sapnap. But with that aside, Dream did do the entire drama with Tubbo and Tommy recently, where he called Tommy's fans the Arsler. And that's just not cool. That's just not cool. And I know there's gonna be a Dream fan out there who's gonna say it's cool, but it's just not. It's very much not so. I don't care if he has permission, it's like, you could do so much better, man. You could do so much better, and you choose not to. I don't know if Shane was included on it, because I didn't really watch the last, like, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of it. But the part that I watched, he wasn't in it, so I'm going to assume that he wasn't in it, and I find that interesting, because Technoblade has a pretty big history with Fire Breathman, with Shane, because like if you look at Fire Breathman's channel, there's literally like a video of like how I became Technoblade Sensei or whatever, and like it's just interesting that he's not under, and I think that speaks volumes about something. I don't know who, but something. um a lot of it was also really nostalgic in a way that I didn't enjoy, because nostalgia isn't a productive emotion. Because when you feel anger, when you feel sadness, you are motivated to do something, and like a lot of emotions work that way. Either you're motivated to do something, or you're um like, even grief to some extent is positive because it allows you to grow as a person, to heal. And nostalgia just doesn't do anything at all. Like, what's the point? And like, I think the entire video reminds me of actually a court testimony that happened recently, where they used AI to recreate like the victim of, I think, a car accident. It might have been a shooting, but I'm pretty sure it's a car accident. And I'm just like, why? Like, removing the, ethical concerns about artificial intelligence, or generative artificial intelligence, I should say. Um, like, all of that aside, holy fuck, why did you do that? Like, there's a scene in Barbie. I think I've talked about this before, but whatever. The ending scene in Barbie where like Barbie wants to become human, and she's told like you will die, and like being a human is weird. We create things like patriarchy, etc., etc. You can go watch a scene. It's so emotionally moving. Um, she says, "I still want to become one anyways," and I think that speaks to like the danger of immortality. I don't know what the best word would be, but like the sadness, the grief of immortality, I guess. How, to live forever is to forever be in a cycle of being attached to things and watching them die, especially things that are alive, and becoming slowly desensitized to it to the point where you're no longer human. I think that's something that I have learned in my life, not just through the media that I consume, but also through my experiences of like, because I've had to, in some ways, kill myself and recreate and rebirth myself over and over and over again as I stumble, fall, learn, grow, change, find myself. And I think I'm finally at a point where I no longer need to go through that cycle much more. Like, obviously I'll change, but I don't feel like I'm going to change in any way that's too radical, too drastic. And that is how, like I used to be afraid of dying because I used to be afraid that like I didn't do enough in my life, and I still feel that way to some extent in the sense that I do want to like help the world more, but I come with it at an angle of that like there's no time to regret what you have done, right? When I am on my deathbed, there is no time to regret the fact that I lived my life in a way that, you know, can be considered improper in retrospect, because you never know what is improper at the time that you're doing it unless you know, like, from past experience that it is improper, from others' past experience that it is improper. It's like playing a video game, you know, like you do like the Henry Sniper video games. You don't know what's going to kill you until you actually do it, and that's like the beauty of it, right? You only live once, and so you might as well use that one time to do crazy shit, right? And that's kind of in Techno Spirit. He said like he wanted to be a writing major, which, by the way, is not economically profitable. Like not, it's not a good economic like choice at all. But like he was still like, I'm going to full send this. Like this is, you only live once. This is what I'm gonna do. You know. The last thing that I want to talk about in this is the bell. Throughout the video, Techno's dad, he had like a Minecraft bell, but like real life. And like he would ring it because like Techno had like the sellout bell. But I, it feels empty. Not like the sound, but like the inclusion of it, because I guess like in some ways what I wanted was something that was kind of more organized and corporate, in the sense that like I didn't want it to be all over the place. I didn't want it to be like crazy and like manic. I wanted it to be like organized, like here's a beginning of his life, here's stories from that point, here's stories from his time in school, here's his like YouTube career, etc, etc. And I do like the video for shedding insight more on his life, because that was something that he kept very private, and something that his estate has kept very private from the world after his passing. And obviously like it's their right to showcase what he's done. It's their right to, you know, like it's their kid, like they get to choose what happens to his legacy in some sense. But it does make him more human to know like more about him, right? More of what he's done in life. And I'm grateful that they were able to share that part with us. Like I never would have thought that he played an instrument until they shared that, and that's wonderful. But like the sellout bell is a huge issue because Techno repeatedly like developed his channel with the knowledge in mind of reaching, I think, 10 million subscribers. I think it was 10 million. I think 10 million was the original goal. Refined greedy spirit. W. And he's always like made that very public that like the channel is just here for him to get 10 million subs and throw it on his resume basically. And from a viewing perspective, it then makes sense why he does a lot of the things he does. Like, it's well known that his catchphrase is like subscribe to Technoblade, right? But when other YouTubers do it, it feels bland. It feels, you know, it doesn't feel right. But when Techno does it, a lot of things work. Like his voice, his cadence, and even like the name of the YouTube channel, like Technoblade. Like a lot of it harkens back to older YouTube, and that's a nostalgia, which I said was bad earlier, and I still stand by. But in this sense, I kind of think it's a nice touch, where instead of being just like a regressive force. But it's also like an explicit sellout because his entire channel is an explicit sellout. Like you're there for him to hit 10 million subscribers. That's like the point. And thus the catchphrase doesn't become, you know, cringe. It becomes dedication. It becomes a showcase of his commitment to the craft. And when he did the sellout bell, I don't fully know the context behind it, but I know a bit of it, and what I do remember is that he was really bad about selling out on his streams, basically. Like, and so like he would have like a timer and like the bell, and he would just ring the bell, and like while he's like subscribe to Technoblade, etc., etc. You can find clips of it. I'm not going to tell you. You know what it is. But I think like in the context of this video, it feels more like a sellout rather than his commitment to the craft and his commitment to YouTube, because the fact that videos are infrequently posted on the channel and also of kind of low quality, it's like, how do I explain this? The channel doesn't feel like it's there just to get 10 million subscribers for a random kid in the world. It feels like it is a marketing tool for a foundation, for a charity. And I understand, like, okay, yeah, we want to promote our charity, but like, you goddamn could have promoted it a lot more, right? If this substravaganza was done in the context of a bunch of previous videos showcasing the One of Us Foundation and what it does, and actually making sure that the world knows, like, this is the fucking work that you're doing, like, that's a lot more tasteful than a random video celebrating 20 million subscribers on the channel of your dead son that you're using as what feels like a cash grab in this modern day. And I'm not accusing him of this. I'm not accusing the foundation of, you know, being a thing similar to the Completionists charity. That was a shit show. But rather, it feels soulless in the same ways that other channels feel soulless when they do it. And that's an issue because it's Techno's channel. It's his legacy, and you're choosing to do this, and I don't think it's a good thing to do. I think it's a poor choice, is my point. Um, this extravaganza could have been so much better. Better editing, better music, better, you know, there's a lot of things that I could have done to make it better, and whether that was go for a high production, high, you know, fucking blow the roof off type stuff, or whether that was going for a more homecore style vibe, similar to some of Techno's older videos where he's fucking gapping it up while playing Blitz survival games or whatever, and like both work, and they chose to go with neither. I had a third subject I wanted to talk about. What was that? Oh, the third subject is more about me. That's what I wanted to talk about. Cause I'm kind of gonna tie everything together here with what I want to talk about, which is like my belief in life is that things like food, water, shelter, they should be guarantees. They should be like things given to everyone in the world, regardless of age, gender, race, regardless of anything. Right? The government should just guarantee this for everyone, and um obviously like the argument then is like, oh well then people won't work, and the response to it is people will, because I don't work. Most people don't work to make sure, like, that's a part of it, obviously, but that's not the main goal in an enlightened society. And by enlightened, I mean like a modern society, a society where food, water, shelter is in abundance. People do work because they're bored and they want something to fill their lives with, and that's what work. And by work, I mean like anything, like art counts as work, right? Like anything that provides value to society in the sense of like how, like house decor, cleaning up the house, vacuuming, that counts as work. Singing songs to little kids at the daycare counts as work. You know, anything counts as work in this case, because I think if it fulfills your life, if it makes your life meaningful, I think that is work. In the same way that this YouTube video to me is work, because despite literally making like nothing, um, it is still fulfilling my life goals of making meaning out of this life. You know, it gives me something to do that allows me to impact the lives of others in a positive fashion that I find enjoyable, and I think that to me is work. That's all the motivation I need, and if you need more motivation than that to do your job, I think you need to find a new job. It's that simple. And obviously not all of us are lucky enough to, you know, be able to have the time and to throw into things like content creation or painting or whatever the labor might be, right? Like not all of us are fortunate enough to do that, and I get that, but if you are fortunate enough to do so and you still choose to slave away, your choice, but I think you can do better, man. I really do. Why is this current changing, but this one isn't? Whatever. Is it like based on like the pool of water? Oh no, I updated. And so that kind of belief of life is something that really kind of got me kicked out of the house in a sense. My parents' house, that is. Along with a lot of other things I've talked about in other videos, but this was one of the things because my parents wanted me to do a job over summer for the tuition that I was gonna pay to my college, and I told them like I have a job, it's called fucking streaming. No. Well, I mean that is kind of what I told them. But like I didn't want to do it because of a lot of reasons. One is that I don't feel like I've done anything in my life that would be useful in a job interview. Not because I literally haven't. Like I know I have accolades I can list off, but like I don't enjoy listing off my accolades, I think. Not I think, like I know I don't enjoy listing off my accolades, but I also like just don't know too much about what I've done because a lot of it is like hazed in gender dysphoric dissociation. And on top of that, I don't feel like I'm physically presenting in a way that is quite me as much as I want it to, like, because conversion therapy, etc., etc. And on top of that, I'm still kind of in like a baby trans phase of like, I want some time to be a little girl again. I want some time to fucking fuck around and do bullshit and have fun and have a childhood that I never really had in that sense. And on top of that, I don't want my job to be fast food work. I don't want my job to be that stuff because it's not what I want to do in my life. Like if I could write out the perfect life for me to live, I would go to college for psychology and become a therapist. That's that's my dream job. That is the line that I would want to go in if everything in the world like just aligned into place perfectly out of nowhere, right? And the reason why I didn't choose that when I originally applied for college was because I spent so much of my life going into STEM, going into engineering specifically, is that I didn't want to give that up. And I know my math skills would have still been useful in psychology, but in my background as well, like my lived experience, but whatever, I'll just fish here. I didn't want that to go to waste. This kind of like a sunk cost fallacy thing, but also I didn't really want to like disappoint my parents because it was I never got permission to do oops, I tabbed out somehow. I never got permission to do psychology. The most psychology work that I did was the most psychology work that I did was like I helped online friends. Well, like not really friends. When I met them, they weren't my friends, but now they are. But I would just help them with their like mental health struggles and stuff. I think I could do a better job now, but back then that was like I did my best to just make sure they didn't die, basically, and I I enjoyed that, and I still do, and that's why psychology has always been so interesting to me in that sense. And like, if my second choice would be like childcare, weirdly, taking care of like a physical space and making it like safe and accessible and enjoyable for children to play in and grow up in is also really beautiful to me because it's doing something for others that was never done for me in a sense. And I'm currently in a situation where like I will probably end up doing like a fast food job or whatever, and like because like I need the money because I cut off my parents, my only fucking money source at the time, and now I'm fucking I mean I guess my girlfriend is a money source, but like we we both know that's just not like infinite in any form of the word infinite. I guess a better word is not infinite, but like the better word is stable or like consistent. Like her, not like her job isn't consistent, but just like it's not enough, I guess. I and like the how this ties into everything is number one, it's about empowering. I think that's what my life has become. That's what I'm dedicating my life to, and not just like because I have to, but because I want to as well. Because like recently I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on other people who have experienced horrible things done to them. Maybe not horrible is the right word. Well, there's two categories, I guess. One is like people who are born different. Like intersex has been thrown into my fucking recommendations for some reason. People born different. And the other one is people who were there was a video about like a person who was it was like a girl who was recounting her experience in the troubled teen industry of like those like farms and ranches that like Dr. Phil would send people to or whatever. And like I sit here as a combination of the two categories of someone who is different because I'm trans and who went through a similar thing to the troubled teen industry in my conversion therapy experience. And I I want to dedicate my life to empowering both groups, empowering survivors of people who were thrown into the troubled teen industry, people who went through conversion therapy, people who have to go through horrors, and empowering minorities, trans people, Asians, both of which I am, and along with other minorities, right? Black people, Hispanics, Latinas, and well, Latinx is the correct term. That's, and I guess the third category would be children, because while I was a child, I didn't have much freedom, I didn't have much mobility to explore what I wanted to do, and I want to give that opportunity to not just my kids, but like other kids in the world, right? Whether that be my friends' kids or just kids of a stranger that, you know, you meet on the street, you know? And I do this in a similar way to how I was talking about empowerment earlier. About, you know, how the country, I think it's Sweden, but I'm not, again, I don't remember. You know, they gave women the ability to be housewives. They made that a monetizable path for them, and how that was a success, right? Not just, you know, how like, and obviously, like, if men want to do that, like, they can do that too, you know? It's not just women, but. And the other thing is kind of a struggle with legacy, maybe is the right word. Because I don't know how well known I'll be by the end of everything, but I hope that, well, I know that there will be people who will cherish the time that I was here, because I have a girlfriend and good friends, you know, with me, but I I hope that they don't do something similar to the technoblade substravaganza, because that was so distasteful in my opinion, and I don't want my legacy to just be that, you know? I think to some extent every legacy will be like that. Like Tupac's legacy in hip hop has kind of entered a similar state. Not because of Tupac's fault, obviously, or his state's fault, but because of Drake and how Drake, you know, wants to be accepted, so he tries to be like Tupac and like get Tupac's like rings and stuff, and you know, all of that. I also just like I don't want to, or at least I hope not. I hope I don't have to be a cog in the machine of capitalism, because techno moved techno made this channel in hopes of getting 10 million subscribers, and there's a lot of stories in the subscriptions of how techno would how he would optimize statistics in a sense, right? Like when he was told to practice the violin, he would optimize his time to make sure that he was spending the least amount of time practicing the violin. And like when he got the ribbon, like when he like grinded for that award, like he optimizes like singing to be like for the award, and I come back to the final scene of Oppenheimer, not the like vision of global destruction, but rather what Einstein said in that exchange, where he says, you know, now you realize that award was not for me, but for all of you. Hmm? Now you will experience that too. You will be served salmon and potato salad. Um, they will make speeches about you, give you awards, but remember, it won't be for you, it will be for them. And that's how I feel like my life has been for the most part, where my accolades and accomplishments aren't done for my sake. I mean, maybe they are for like my survival, I guess, like the base of it, if you really want to go that far. But realistically, I could have gotten away with doing lower level jobs instead of having to be like some manager or whatever. Um, like I don't need to be a Harvard graduate. I'd be fine just going to um some Cal university or whatever. But like, yeah, when I think back to my life, like every experience has been like that. My math competition accolades were for my parents to gloat about me. My grades were also for them, but also to some extent for the teachers. And, I mean, I know the good teachers who actually prioritize my education um, rather than wanting to, you know, be the teacher of a fucking genius or whatever. But um, I my graduation. I don't think I've told the story on this channel. I might, but um, point being, the graduation ceremony felt like a thank you for the teachers for like having dealt with me all of this time, for having um told me, or not told me, but like, you know, the ceremony was for them, for the teachers, for the principals, for all of those, not for the students who went through the 12 years of education and grueling work in order to get to that point. And that's why, to some extent, I don't want to accomplish anything because I know anything that I do would be for them, whether that's future presidents or, you know, billionaires or whatever the case might be. But also, I just don't want to be a part of the machine that continues to oppress and deprive people of needed things like food, water, shelter. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. Mm, I mean, such is the cycle, right? Like, I will be a part of that. That's how life is, sadly. But I hope it doesn't have to be. I really do. And who knows, maybe at the end of this, it went. Maybe at, you know, the end of the huge fucking punishment that we're having for being Americans or whatever. Maybe when, you know, Trump is over, when fascism and authoritarianism is over, when we have a society that seems actually interested in helping out um, the people in the worst situations, helping out the people who are in the worst possible, you know, helping out the poor and needy, or needy is maybe the wrong word, but like, you know what I mean, right? Helping out the poor, the homeless, the uh, rehabilitated, helping out those who need it the most. And I hope that's where we can end up, you know? Um, that was such a big ramble. Did I even wrap everything together? I don't think I did. hope I did. I'm just... I'm really annoyed with how the world has gone, and I think reasonably so, and I just... A lot of this is... I rant about that, but a lot of it's also like, you know, more precise stuff, more small stuff. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. The entire giant complaint session is over. You know, you're the manager and I filed my complaint. Now do something with it. I guess some things. Let's start on a more positive note. I want to talk about some things that are more positive. And well, actually, I want to. Well, I'm gonna start this off with a negative act that I think will be good in the long run, which is the recent shooting that happened in Minnesota, where two Democrats were shot. Two Democrat state legislators were shot, and I think both of them are dead. I'm not 100% caught up on everything, but the facts don't, or the details don't matter for what I want to yap about. What I want to yap about is that it's like obviously the president that they died, obviously annoying because now the legislature is no longer a Democrat majority, or at least not guaranteed to be so. But I think it does showcase the effects of right-wing conservatism in this country. Like that's what Donald Trump and the right is greenlighting. That's what they want to happen. And now that we have like the first real world example of it, now that we can show other people like this is the world we live in now. This is what they want us to be in, and now that we're in it, like you gotta help us fight against it, right? Depressing act, I know, but I think it's a hopeful note in the sense that it can awaken people, and I think it is such a powerful awakening because it's literal lives lost, you know. The second thing I want to talk about is Zoran Mamdani. I mean, I guess I'm endorsing him for mayor because, like, I'm talking about him in a positive fashion, but not like I have any, you know, movement behind me at all. Zoran, for those who don't know, he was like a state assembly guy who is deciding to run for mayor, and I mean, you can watch his ads. I think the ads are like so... He's just so charming. He's just so charming. He's like Bernie Sanders, but not old and more charismatic. He has a real shot of winning the mayorship for New York City over Andrew Cuomo, the fucking accused of sex, accused of sex crimes former governor who had to resign in disgrace. The fact that he's even fucking eligible and fucking considered is disgusting, but that's the world we live in, I guess. Cuomo, not Cuomo, Mamdani, Jesus. But I think like, yeah, like one thing that I like about Mamdani is that he is charismatic, but he's hateful, but he's not spiteful. And I think that's a very meaningful distinction because So right is spiteful. If you look at oops, I didn't mean to reel that in. If you look at Elon Musk, right, he is spiteful. If you look at Donald Trump, even to some extent, though I think less so because Donald Trump is old and, mentally not there at all, but he is still spiteful, and that goes for a lot of the right, a lot of the modern right. Um, and Mamdani isn't spiteful. If you look at his campaign, like he does talk a lot about Andrew Cuomo, about how much he does not want Andrew Cuomo to win, how much he hates Andrew Cuomo in that sense, but he doesn't spite Andrew Cuomo. He is not out there to fight against specifically Andrew Cuomo. He is there to improve the lives of others, and in the process, he has to step over and step on Andrew Cuomo, and that I think is how I've been approaching life. Just I hate my parents. I hate what they've done. I'm never going to forgive them. I think that's probably really clear by this point, but I don't spite them. Maybe those aren't the right words, but I think that's how I'm describing it, right? I don't go through my life trying to put my parents down. I go through my life trying to put conversion therapy down, and if my parents are in the path, they will go down, in the journey. But if they step out of the way, they step out of the way, and I don't care. Like, they can go live their lives or whatever, and have a dead son or something. I don't know. um, I think that's for hopeful things. Nothing else is coming to mind, really. Biggest ramble session possible ever. No one has ever beaten it. Nope. Don't look at other streams. Don't look at anything else. Don't go online. Don't check anything. This is the biggest ramble session I've ever seen. Give me the world record and give me lots of money from the world record, I think.